you have one or two Democrats, I think, that I've seen who are trying to stand up and speak out. There are some Republicans who are out here trying to, figure out what in the world is going on and trying to be helpful. But we're still here with these nonprofit organizations and these, universities.
Facebook?
Yeah, we should be. I think I added it late, but we're in there. I see something that says live. I guess we're live somewhere. We're live somewhere, child. Let's see.
Because I was trying to figure out where it is that we are so I can share it out.
We should be on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Yeah. It says it. Do you see it? I don't see it either.
Is it on your timeline?
Oh, it's there in the talking, and I'm just talking like I don't see it. Yeah, it's on top. Hold on, I'll share it to you. Yeah, girl. Hold on. There we go. There you go. Can you see it? Hey y'all. Somebody's okay. So let's get into it, Tracy. All right. So a couple of weeks ago, there was like a list of things that we talked about that was happening. Like as soon as this administration started, there was like a bunch of executive orders so that we can pick apart like what is happening with education, what is happening with NIH, what is happening with USDA, what is happening with USAID. And we're kind of, a few weeks down the line and we're still in the same place that we were then because every day something is different or something changes. Yeah. It's like where does this leave nonprofit organizations? You and me both have been screaming since the beginning of time. Don't, depends completely on grants, especially not federal funding, because, people change and they change their minds about what they want to support. Where does this leave organizations who have had pass-through funding, who are really relying on federal support? Universities and schools are, my daughter, is in school. And I remember when she started, she was a part of this minority thing that minority girls in engineering, and you got some scholarship money.
She goes to a PWI, right?
PWI, right? And you got, this was a big deal. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, let's do this. We're gonna go to over there because they're giving us the most money. So we're gonna go. And as soon as this administration came into place, they all got letters, like all of these, like everybody who was in this little, I don't know if they called it I don't know what kind of group it was, but they got letters saying, hey, because of the DEI rollback thing, we're have to cancel this program, right? This program. And so for her, it was a thing they participated in freshman and sophomore year, and then they had to go on to something else. But new kids who were coming into the school who were able to get this little money, this little engineering scholarship, whatever they had going on, and they had like other little things they participated in. They're not going to be able to do that in the fall. So the new group of people,
so now they have to find monies to continue going to college.
And I'm like, the crazy thing is that, okay, I understand. I don't understand, but I can at least try to understand what's meant by this. But what about these kids who work their butts off to get this stuff? Like, it's not, when you say merit-based, that's true merit. When you think about the fact that, somebody trolled me, y'all. Somebody trolled me on Facebook, Tracy.
Really?
A couple months ago. Well, actually a couple of weeks ago. I had the Be Worth Funding hoodie.
Yes.
And it had all these, Black history colors going on in the hoodie. Like, she really got upset and said, and reported my post right first and said,
no way.
Took it down.
I thought that was the cutest thing. I have my cup. It's in my cupboard.
That it was like discriminatory language or something. All it said was, this is Black History Month. Here's the Be Worth. And so this person said, yeah, you would celebrate a month that's only set aside for Black people. That who have their own colleges, HBCUs, in their own month, Black History Month, and call the rest of the world for discrimination. I'm like, did you not realize that HBCUs were created because we couldn't get into these colleges?
I have come to realize that those are the type of people that you cannot reason with. No matter how much you explain it to them, and the systematic oppression has happened, they will not get it because their mind is already set that they are the ones being discriminated against,
Mhm.
because how dare us have something that belongs to ourselves.
Mhm. It was a whole, and I was like, I'm not gonna go back and forth with this dude. I'm gonna block him. But before I
Mhm.
blocked him, I gotta tell him what I feel about it, right? So I was like, oh, I was trying not to, but I had to, right? So I wrote like
Right.
6 paragraphs, like, look, dude, this is what it is. Like,
Mhm.
this is why this exists. Having to give a history lesson, which is, you
Mhm.
know, why it's so very important that we not erase history, you know.
Mhm.
And there's organizations out here who are established for that reason. I have one group member who started, and she's a Caucasian woman, and they started an organization for aerospace engineering and aviation, right?
Mhm.
And they're focusing on Tuskegee Airmen and having people of color come in to learn, you know, the art of flight. And now she's kind of like, I don't know what to do. Like, do we change the language? Do we pull out
Mhm.
DEI? Do we take down the Tuskegee Airmen thing?
Mhm.
And so, where does she go? Like, what do you do if you're wanting to continue to get support from the federal government? If you're wanting to continue to get these funds that are passed down through to your organizations, and you're not in line with this, even though your mission says we are here to support people of color,
Mhm.
we're here to support differently able kids, or we're here to support. What do I do with that?
Mhm.
Question. Question mark. Right?
Exactly. It's the
Question
question.
mark. Yeah.
Right. It's like I've stated before, I've seen where some people, as soon as the ruling came down, they ran to take DEI or the words minority, women, all of the things that were on that list off their website. So I was like, so then now what is your mission?
Mhm.
And I was just getting crickets. But it's a question that you have to ask yourself. If you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. So
Right.
where do you stand in this? How do you readapt your mission but still create the same impact? How do you start wording your appeals for funding, whether they be through donors or um, through other means? How are you going to do that? And what I've seen people do right now, trying to navigate the language, right, or the lack of language to support their previous missions, is a hodgepodge mess,
Mhm.
right? It says nothing about nothing, and you just look like you're confused.
And you're
So restore.
selling
Yeah.
out your mission, because you know my conversation with this person was, what do you do with the community who has now grown to respect you for doing the work that focuses
Right.
on them? You've spent these years building rapport with this
Mm-hmm.
community, and now you snatch it all away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So where does that leave them? And you said, you know, having to readapt. That's I think that's where we're having to learn, right? How do
Mm-hmm.
I readapt? Not that I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to sell out. I'm not going to say, well, I can't support these people anymore. But I have to learn how to readapt with and still keep my mission, still keep the main thing, despite
Mm-hmm.
what they say going on over there, because nonprofits are founded for that purpose, to
Right.
serve people who didn't have access to whatever it is they needed access to.
You're gonna have to become a creative writer. Wordplay is gonna be your best friend.
Mhm.
And most people don't have what it takes to do that type of wordplay. Because like I said, what I have seen with people trying to adapt and take out things, it's not cohesive. It doesn't really say anything about anything anymore. It seems like you're confused because you are confused, right? You don't know how to string your mission back together for it to make sense without those words, the minority, the underserved, the underprivileged, you know, the words that we use in nonprofits all the time
Mhm.
to describe the communities that most nonprofits are working with,
Mhm.
and adjusting to that, and then adjusting your acts so that you don't have to use those words too, is going to be pivotal, because sometimes if you take those words away, then you're left with nothing. You're just a business at this point, right? Because how are you going to garner support for your mission? How are you going to garner support for the programs and services that you provide? It can be done absolutely 100%, but it does take a bit of creativity to get it done,
Yeah.
right? And creativity can land on the line of seeming scamish, right? If it's not done correctly, or it can land on the line of actually saying what it's supposed to say without saying it. So it's a thin line.
It's a thin line between scam and not scam.
It's a thin line, but it can be done, and you can still continue to create the same amount of impact that you have been creating. And that's why for years I've been advocating um, for not relying on grants.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think the over reliance on grant or free money is why people are so panicked
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many other ways that nonprofit organizations can accumulate income, right? Can accumulate revenue or funding, whichever word makes you feel comfortable.
We're going to be politically correct. And you said something that we've both been screaming this for centuries. Like, okay, look, y'all, you can't rely on, because it feels easy. It's okay.
Yes.
I submit an application. I don't really have to work until after I get the application approved, and then I have everything I need to work with. So it's like, all right, you've made this so much easier for me. The other ways that you bring in revenue requires a lot more, I think, effort upfront.
Yes.
And I think people have grown accustomed to shying away from effort. I'm not going to say people are lazy, because we're being politically correct around here, and I'm not going to call them. But I think people have shied away from that. It's like, okay, if I have to go and cultivate donors and build relationships, that's like hard work. I gotta go talk to people. I gotta go this thing. If I gotta create products or services to sell, I really gotta sit down and figure out how to create this. Then I gotta figure out how to market this. Then I gotta put this in front of the right audience. That's like a whole lot of work to do. I'm just pretending to be some of y'all, right? But
no, I think the first thing is I have to realize I'm a business.
Yeah.
That's the first stage, right?
Like,
if we're going through a 12-step program, that would be
it's like
that would be the first stage, right?
Yeah.
I am a business. I have to acknowledge that as a nonprofit organization, I am a business.
The first step is admitting
the 12 steps to rehabbing your nonprofit.
The first step is admitting that I am a business, right? And I think, the grant monies, because we both have for-profit businesses, right? So we understand that if nothing goes in, nothing comes out, right? It's like a little blanket. If you ain't put in but the grant thing, I go in here, I check, especially COVID, and I always go back to that. A lot of new businesses and nonprofits popped up during that time. You're checking some boxes, you're filling out some paperwork, boom, you got a grant. Now, and so I think the psychology of it has made us lazy and dependent. And I know that for a lot, federal, that's a lot of money for a lot of people who have been depending on this and doing it the right way and serving their populations. Is scary when you say, hey, you got $1 million this year, but next year you're not going to get any money. So how do I continue to provide housing for these people? Right? How do I continue to teach these kids, because the schools are failing? Now we got school choice, and that some parents can't do private school, and some folks can't.
And then here in Florida, our governor is thinking about taking away property tax. Now, it's a twofold. I would love property tax to go away. Okay, I would love for property tax to go away, because I pay about $4,000 a year in property taxes, right? But I also know the power of property taxes, right? And I live in a typical suburban neighborhood that's surrounded by schools, and these schools are supported by the property taxes that we pay.
Yeah,
right? The roads we drive on in my neighborhood are really good roads. I know that the property taxes that we pay go to fixing the holes in the roads and making sure that I don't pop my tire when I'm driving down the street. So it's like a catch 22, right? And it goes back to what the overarching theme is for this administration. When
Mhm.
people are not educated, and that's throughout, whether you're starting with the little kids to you as a business person, if you are not educated, right? And education comes in many different forms. I'm not talking about bachelor's degrees, master's degree. I'm just talking about education, knowledge, right? Then you're pliable.
Yeah.
I can tell you anything,
Yeah.
and you're going to believe it.
You won't believe it.
Okay. And so when we take away the property taxes, as much as I would like them gone,
Mhm.
right? But when we take away the property taxes, most people are not me or you, right? Where we were able to homeschool our kids and get them through, and they're very well adjusted, smart young adults, right? Or young people. Um, these kids are going to get an even lower standard of education. And I think like Florida is done at the bottom when
Oh,
it comes to education.
with Alabama, of course. Like,
Florida's already at the
but,
bottom.
you know,
So when you do stuff like that, it just makes it even worse. And again, this is where nonprofits come in. And I know tons of nonprofits that say they support education. And we've had a whole talk about nonprofits and education and them not really supporting education. There are a few that actually do what they're supposed to be doing, but for the most part, most of them are not truly supporting education. I don't hear them talking about what's happening right now with education. They should be making the biggest noise because it affects them directly and indirectly, right? They should be out here giving strategies to parents on how to, get your kids ready for whatever is coming, or get themselves ready for whatever is coming, or how they're going to step in to help to fill the gap. But again, you need strategy, you need knowledge, you need a whole plan on how you're going to do it. And I don't think that most of the nonprofits are equipped to do that.
they aren't. And this reminds me of another thing that I scream about all the time: continuing education, and
Mhm.
for the providers, for the
Yes.
nonprofit leaders.
Yes.
Like, they never. You get into the work, even if you're doing something with kids and you're providing after school programs or whatever you're
Mhm.
doing. You get into the work, and then that work consumes you. You're like,
Yeah, I have
okay.
a whole segment of my business is about professional development. I
Mhm.
create professional development workshops because learning is continuous. You're supposed to be a lifelong learner. You start the business. I still pay for other consultants' things
Mhm.
because I don't know everything, right? And they have a different spin on it. But do you know how hard it is to sell professional development and training to nonprofits? Do you know how hard it is? When I'm telling you, it should be already a line item in
Yep.
your budget. You
Mhm.
have to have a line item for professional development, whether it's $2,000, $3,000, but your staff needs general professional development and specific professional development on a yearly basis. And so does your board. You can't stop because things are going good right now doesn't mean that you just keep doing that and you don't learn how to do something else
Mhm.
because it's going good. And we know too that a lot of nonprofit leaders, they like to tell us that Jane did this and it worked. So why you telling me that it's not going to work? Okay,
Not Jane.
because Jane got success,
Yeah.
so it's going to work for me. And even though I'm saying, well, what's good for the geese ain't necessarily good for the gander, right? And because it worked for Jane and Jane is not in jail, don't mean that you're going to do it and you're not
You ain't
going
going to
to.
jail because you try that, Jane, if you want to. You're gonna be over
Right.
there.
And that's something that they're not understanding. I think the first step for nonprofits right now, nonprofit leaders right this minute, is to become learners, right? To become coachable. Forget all of the things that Not, I mean, when I say all the things, I don't mean everything. Come on now. I just have to say that because somebody's gonna be like, oh, but and I don't understand why we have to make those disclaimers. This is one of the reasons I sometimes hate to put anything out on social media because you just feel like it has to come with a ton of disclaimers because
Yeah.
people can't discern that because I say all, I don't mean all, But anyways, is for them to become pliable, to become sponges right now to learn something new, to do something different, because the status quo is not going to work anymore, not in this new regime.
Hmm. And the education beforehand prepares you for stuff like this. Like
Yes.
for a lot of people right now, they feel blindsided, right?
Mhm.
But had some preparation going in before now. Like the whole campaign trail was like, this is going to happen. This might happen, whether you believed it or
People didn't
not.
believe it.
Yeah, whether you believe it or not, you're like, okay, I need a plan B just in
Mhm.
case this
Mhm.
thing happens, or I'm participating in this professional development opportunity where they're letting us know that these things are also available in the event
Mhm.
that this thing happens. And even if it doesn't, you still can do this thing. We get one tracked, and we're okay. I'm gonna stay right here in this. I remember, and I talked about it before. I remember when I worked in HIV, and prevention education was like the thing, right? You didn't want to contract HIV because it was a serious death sentence thing going on. Then Magic Johnson comes in and says, hey, we got a pill, right? And we can reduce viral loads and we can do this. And all the pharmaceutical companies jumped on it, and they're like, you know what? People gonna do what people gonna do. So maybe instead of only focusing on prevention education, maybe we should focus on getting people to the doctor so they can check out what's going on with them, so that if they need a pill, we can give them the pill, they can be in treatment and blah blah blah, right? Because of that, funding for education almost went to zero.
Mhm.
And that was the space where I was working. Okay, prevention education. So what do we have to do? Well, now we got to pivot. I don't have to change my mission because I'm still educating, but
Mhm.
instead of educating about so much about prevention and whatever, I'm educating about get yourself over there to the doctor, comply
Right.
with your healthcare provider. Still
Mhm.
education. So I
Mhm.
didn't have to change what I stood on. This is education. This is what we're here for. But because I
Right.
know that the funding for this type of education is no longer, and this is what we need to pay my staff. Let us go over here with that. But that's because you stay in the middle of things. You know
Mhm.
what's going on with legislation, you know what's going on with funding, so that you're not caught off guard and you know what to do to fund your organization.
Yeah. I agree.
So y'all got to get on it, learning,
Yeah.
and
It's
educate.
happening with or without you. It's
Yeah,
going to happen.
yeah, we're right in the middle of it.
Mhm.
It's happening. You feel it.
Every day I turn on the news is something new. I'm just like, I need a news break. Okay.
I said that to someone
I need a news break. I have my Google alerts. I have, you can't turn on TikTok. Well, at least the people I follow, and they're not giving you some breaking news, or you go to Substack and it's breaking news. It's always breaking news. And it's just like, wow, this is overwhelming. And the overwhelm is what they want us to feel, right?
Mhm.
They want us to feel that overwhelm, because once you're overwhelmed, you want to shut down. You don't want to hear anything else. And then things start rolling out. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wait, how did I get here?
Yep. In the
How?
apocalypse.
How did I get here?
In the apocalypse, The Walking Dead. That's what I told my
Mhm,
friend yesterday. I was
mhm.
like, this, I don't know. But we have to stay woke, even though we're not supposed to say that now, I don't think. And we have to pay attention, right? You
Yeah.
have to pay attention. You have to be willing to receive, you know, to educate yourselves, and to be, for nonprofits, I think that we have to go back to why nonprofits are here. Like
Mhm.
the heart of the thing. No matter what side of the political, page you're on, the reason why nonprofits are started is to be of support to somebody else, like outside of yourself, right?
Mhm.
You start nonprofits because you want to help somebody, whether that's private or public. You're starting it for a social cause, more than likely.
Right.
So even if the administration says, you can't do this, or you can't do this for this particular group, that's not what nonprofits were started for. So you still have a charge to keep. That you still have to do what it is you were founded to do.
I was gonna say something. I don't remember. I don't remember. I was gonna say something though, but I don't remember what it is. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, really, I'm just you got folk who start nonprofits. You know, you got Republicans, Democrats, or whatever.
Oh, I remember you said it, so I now remember what I was going to say. um,
Get that buzzwords.
Right. So before all these funding sources became available, how do you think nonprofits were surviving back in the day? Maybe you need to ask somebody who had a nonprofit back in like the 70s, the 80s, how they were surviving, because all of these funding streams were not always available. But nonprofits were still out here doing what they needed to do to support the community, because a lot of them did realize, hey, we are a business. When you look at the Red Cross is a nonprofit. The
Mhm.
Red Cross also makes billions of dollars a year. The Red Cross CEO makes millions of dollars a year as a salary, right?
Mhm.
And I know you'd be like, oh, well, that's not a fair comparison, but they started just like you,
Mhm.
right? And they learned how to navigate the system effectively so
Mhm.
that even with this shift, yes, they're going to have some type of financial blowback. Everybody is going to have, we are going to have it, you're going to have it, everybody's going to have it. But it's not going to devastate them to the point where they're going to have to close their doors. It's not going to devastate them to the point where they're still not going to be able to serve the communities that they have decided to serve. It's not going to do that because they have systems and processes in place that prevent that from happening. They realized a long time ago that they were a business, and they set up their organization so that their money makes money for them.
Exactly. They've survived through Great Depression. Like you got, all this stuff.
Exactly.
Some of these agencies didn't even exist until 40s or 50s. All
No.
Veterans Affairs
Mhm.
and Social Security wasn't even around.
Mhm.
But nonprofits were. Even if
Right.
you weren't like legally formed as a nonprofit, there were
Mhm.
charitable organizations and charitable groups that provided services. You got these little nurses who popped up and went to provide healthcare to folk
Mhm.
stranded on the streets and things. So they made it work.
Yeah.
Even then, they knew how to diversify.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even then, before the government said, I'm going to give you some money, because it was hard to get into the government to get money. So we
Mhm.
got to figure out, how do we pull together our communities to help us to do this work and to fund this thing that we need to do. We're just
Yeah.
back there. That's it. We've been here before. Maybe I wasn't alive, but we've been here before.
Yeah, we have. It may not seem that way because we weren't around, but the country has been through this type of thing before.
Yeah, and we will survive. I'm a survivor in my Beyonce voice.
We need to sing that song. I don't want to pay any royalties, so or get flagged. But yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah. So you want to talk about surviving the shift
Yeah.
that we're forming?
So we want to invite y'all to our group, Surviving the Shift, which will help you navigate during these times. We just ain't
Mhm.
about to leave y'all out here hanging like this, right? Um, because that happens too, right? You get
Mhm.
people that pop up and they go, "Oh, this is an issue," and then there's nowhere to go for
Right.
support. So we have created Surviving the Shift as a membership group to help you to survive the shift. Now, there's a
Mhm.
lot of moving pieces to this thing, because that's what it's all about, because we can't just sit still and let this happen, right? Um,
Mhm.
Tracy and I are there in the group to provide support. There's a lot of interactive things that are going to be taking place in the group, helping you to kind of identify or re-identify, or what Tracy says, readapt your so that you could stay afloat, and not just barely, but stay afloat and survive and still strive through these times. I don't know, we don't know what the next 4 years might
Mhm.
look like. This may be 8 years. This may go on to 12. We don't know
I mean,
what
he's asking for a third term,
and
so we just don't know.
even if he doesn't make it, his those who come behind him, we don't know what it's going to look like up there, right? But
Right.
what we do know is that the work that you guys do remains important no
Mhm.
matter who's in office. And we want to provide you with that support system that you need in order to make this work. So there's a couple of things, and you'll see it when you get to our landing page, um,
Mhm.
about what the group offers. But if you really want to move forward during this time, you want to be in the group. We're doing this here just to kind of introduce you to it, but in the group, we really dive into some more of the policies, what that means
Mhm.
for you, and helping you to readapt um, your missions in a way that you don't sell out,
Hmm.
but you're able to serve effectively. You got
Yeah. Yeah. Um, why am I just, I'm losing my thoughts today.
because I talk so much and I talk all the time.
Yeah. So, and we've made it very affordable for you, because we know times are hard. So, this is kind of our giving back, but we can't give back completely for free because we have to live as well, but we've tried to make it as affordable as possible for you for the value that we'll be giving. Between Ty and I, and we talking about over 50 years of experience. God, we're old, Ty. But yeah. But between the both of us, you're talking about over 50 years of experience and helping nonprofits to get funding. You're talking in the hundreds of millions of dollars of funding in different ways, grants, service contracts, earned income, you name it. So you'll be in good hands. That's for sure.
I'll say I was gonna plug them, but yeah, I mean, you're talking about different types of nonprofits, and I think people don't
Mhm.
realize, what's Tracy mentioned. She's like, "What's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander." You have to understand, like, what type of organization am I running here? What's the best
Mhm.
fit
Mhm.
for my organization right now? What should I be doing? It may be a little bit different from somebody else, whatever they're doing. But in
Mhm.
the group, we kind of help you to figure out what's the plan for you. Like what should you be doing with your
Right.
organization to ensure that you move to the next level and that you don't end up closing your doors during
Mhm.
this administration. Because whatever it is, whatever you got going on is absolutely necessary, or you wouldn't have started it, I guess, right? Saw a
You're
problem.
right.
You wanted to solve
Exactly.
a problem, and you can still do this. There's multiple ways to bring in revenue. In the group, we'll show you, what some of those ways look like and what is the best way for you. So, you know, that's about it. Very
Yeah.
affordable. Like Tracy said, what is it, like 249?
249. Mhm.
249 is the price, 249 a month. It's a membership subscription. That means you do it every month, right?
Mhm.
Um, but for continuous support in the group,
Right.
to work with your peers, make connections with them. A lot of times you guys are trying to, and that's why you're not doing well, because you ain't got enough capacity to
Mhm.
do things on your own. So being in a
Right.
group where other people are working towards similar goals, maybe you could forge some partnerships, and be able to do this thing a little bit better. We are stronger together, in case you didn't know.
Mhm. Yeah. All right.
I see you, Brittany. Brittany says good price. I know. Like, girl, we know this. Didn't she say
Yeah.
she wanted to make sure that we.
Yeah, we went back and forth on the price a lot.
Yep.
Okay. That's why we didn't come on last week because we were like,
We got to
fuck,
be
can we
thinking
make
about
it?
this. I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, we're gonna be doing that and that, and then Rachel sends me a long list of to dos, and I'm like, girl, we got to do all of that for that. Okay, well, all right, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we're gonna do. But
Mhm.
we want to make sure that you guys survive. You
Mhm.
gotta be here. Like
Yeah.
there's no other choice for whatever you're doing. If you're serving old people and they gotta get to the doctor, they still gotta get to the doctor, whether they cut the health care or not. Somebody
Right.
still gotta see about them,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. All
Okay.
right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today for Surviving the Shift, and we will see you again on Tuesday next week. Oh, and the actual group starts on March 17th. So you have about, what, 2.5 weeks to figure it out and get in the group.
Get your life together, girl, because I'm
Mhm.
telling you, and this is going fast. Like this is going really fast. The administration, if y'all look at the speed at which these executive orders are being signed and pushed and these changes are being made.
Mhm.
If you miss it, you miss it, right? Everything is going. So we have to move just as fast.
Yep.
Are you
Yep.
gonna be behind? You gonna get left, girl.
Mhm.
You gonna get right. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.